I sat rigidly in the dim office of Harrington and Company. Law firm, my hands clenched as anticipation pressed against my chest. Polished mahogany table reflected the chandelier's glow, but I found no comfort in its grandeur. Opposite me, my sister Melissa lounged, exuding effortless arrogance. Mr. Reynolds adjusted his glasses, clearing his throat. As per the last will of Jonathan and Eleanor Whitmore, he announced, the entirety of their financial assets, corporate holdings, and real estate portfolio, valued at approximately $250 million, shall be transferred to their daughter Melissa Whitmore. Melissa smirked, tossing her golden hair. She wasn't the least bit surprised. And what about me? I asked, my voice betraying nothing. Mr. Reynolds hesitated, and that pause told me everything. To their son, Daniel Whitmore, he continued, shifting uncomfortably, they bequeathed the farm estate in Redwood Valley, along with all existing structures and land rights. Silence stretched. A farm? Melissa echoed, laughter bubbling in her throat. Oh, that's priceless. She leaned forward. I guess they finally accepted you weren't cut out for real business. I swallowed hard. They knew I worked in computer technology, I said evenly. They knew I had no interest in farming. Melissa sighed theatrically. Come on, Daniel. Be grateful they left you something. Grateful? My parents had always favored Melissa, their golden child. I had chosen a different path, one they never approved of. But this was beyond favoritism. This was a deliberate insult. Do you know why they left me the farm? I asked Mr. Reynolds. He avoided my gaze. I can only execute their wishes as instructed. Melissa chuckled. Dad always said you wasted your time with computers. Maybe they thought you'd finally learn the value of real work, out in the dirt with the cows. I forced myself to remain calm. She wanted a reaction. She wouldn't get one. Instead, I stood buttoning my jacket. Enjoy the fortune, Melissa, I said coolly. Let's see how well you handle it without anyone cleaning up your messes. Her smirk faltered slightly. I turned toward the door, but her voice rang out again. Oh, and Danny? I paused. When you realize you can't even manage a farm, let me know. Maybe I'll buy it off you for pennies. I walked out without another word, my pulse hammering. The betrayal was undeniable. But beneath my anger, something gnawed at me. Why had my parents, who never believed in me, left me that farm? And more importantly, what was I going to do about it? The drive to Redwood Valley felt like a journey into exile. Miles of empty fields stretched on either side of the cracked asphalt road, the once thriving land now abandoned to time. When I finally arrived at the farm, a gust of wind sent a swirl of dust over the rusted gate. The house, a two-story relic of neglect, stood at the end of a gravel path, its once white paint peeling under the weight of forgotten years. Stepping out of my car, I took in the vast, unkempt fields. This was what my parents had left me, a crumbling farm in the middle of nowhere. Can I help you? I turned to see a broad-shouldered man standing by the fence. His weathered face was lined with suspicion. Daniel Whitmore, I introduced myself. I own the farm now. His gaze darkened. So, you're his son. Something in his tone made me pause. You knew my father? The man scoffed. Mason Grant. My father was the rightful owner of this land until your old man took it. I frowned. Took it? Mason stepped closer. Your father forced mine to sign it over when he was drowning in debt. He had no choice. Your family got this land for nothing. His eyes burned with resentment. I grew up watching my father break his back on this soil, only to lose everything. So no, I wouldn't say I knew your father, I knew what he did. The air between us thickened. I hadn't expected a warm welcome, but this was something deeper. Did my father ever use the land? I asked, glancing at the overgrown fields. Mason hesitated, then exhaled sharply. No. He never worked a single day here. Just locked up the old barn and left it to rot. The barn? A strange curiosity flickered in my chest. Why would my father take a farm only to abandon it? Where is this barn? I asked. Mason studied me before jerking his head toward a structure in the distance. See for yourself. I walked toward it, heart pounding. The barn doors were secured with a rusted padlock, but the wood was old, weakened by years of decay. One forceful shove and the lock gave way. Inside, dust and shadows ruled. But in the far corner, beneath a pile of forgotten tools, I spotted something odd. A trapdoor, barely visible beneath the dirt. I pulled it open. A cold gust of air rushed up from the darkness below. A basement. A hidden basement. I grabbed my phone and switched on the flashlight. My breath caught in my throat as I descended the old wooden steps. Because on the walls, covered in dust and time, were geological maps, charts, research documents, and at the center of it all, a single word scrawled across a yellowed blueprint. Oil. Dust swirled in the beam of my flashlight as I stepped cautiously into the basement. The air was thick, stale, carrying the scent of old wood and something metallic. My pulse quickened. This place had been untouched for years, maybe decades. The walls were lined with shelves stacked with yellow documents, rusted tools, and geological survey maps. My father had hidden something down here, but what? I moved toward the largest table, its surface cluttered with scattered blueprints. A single word leaped out at me from a tattered file. Oil reserves, preliminary report. My breath hitched. I flipped through the pages, my hands shaking. The land beneath this farm, my land, sat on a vast, untapped oil reserve. Footsteps creaked above me. My head snapped up. Find what you're looking for? I spun to see Mason Grant standing at the entrance, arms crossed. His gaze dropped to the papers in my hand, and his expression darkened. You knew, I accused. He let out a bitter chuckle. Knew? My father suspected. Your old man made sure no one else did. He buried the truth, locked this place up, and let the farm rot. Why? I demanded. Power? Greed? Maybe revenge. Mason's eyes bore into mine. The real question is, what are you going to do about it? I exhaled sharply, gripping the papers tighter. Whatever my father had done, whatever secrets he had buried, one thing was clear. I wasn't walking away from this. I ran my fingers over the heavy wooden desk, its surface worn from time. Amidst the scattered documents, my eyes caught a small, rusted box tucked into the corner. My pulse quickened. I pried it open, the lock brittle with age, and inside lay a single yellowed paper. A 4-digit code. I turned toward the basement's far wall, where a heavy metal door stood, its mechanical lock covered in dust. Heart pounding, I punched in the numbers. A tense second passed before a loud click echoed through the room. The door groaned open, revealing a hidden chamber. Stepping inside, my flashlight swept over the walls, until it froze on a large, aged map. My breath hitched. Red crosses marked several points across the farm, and next to them, scribbled notes in my father's handwriting, confirmed oil deposits. I didn't sleep that night. My mind raced with the implications of my discovery. The farm wasn't worthless, it was sitting on a gold mine of oil. But if Mason knew, others might too. If Melissa found out, she'd do everything in her power to take it from me. Sunrise, I called Daniel Harper, a trusted geologist. Within hours, he arrived, examining the documents with wide eyes. This isn't just an oil deposit, he said, tapping the map. This could be one of the biggest reserves in the state. A few days later, tires crunched on the gravel outside the barn. My stomach tightened as Melissa stepped out of a sleek black car, a knowing smirk on her face. It was most likely Mason who found her and told her about the find. I knew you weren't stupid, Dan, she said, strolling into the barn. You actually found something, didn't you? I stayed silent, gripping the papers in my hand. She took another step forward. Tell you what, she purred. Sell me the farm. Name your price. I exhaled sharply. This was it, the moment I had waited for. I pulled out my phone and turned the screen toward her. Live news streamed across it. Too late, I said. I just signed an exclusive drilling deal. The farm stays mine. Melissa's smirk vanished. Her eyes darkened with fury, but there was nothing she could do. 2 months later, oil rigs stood tall where an abandoned farm once lay. My name was splashed across business headlines, not as a failure, but as the owner of one of the most valuable oil sites in the region. As I stood at the edge of my land, watching my fortune come to life, I smiled. For the first time, I had won.